It could happen now.
And we have a winner. The first overall pick in the 2015 NHL draft belongs to the Edmonton Oilers.
McDavid, puck almost got away from him, then he scored! Oh, wow!
All right, welcome back finally to the Oilers Rig Radio. Daniel is with me as always. We're sitting in his garage. On the cusp, would you say on the cusp of the 2017-18 season, or is it too soon to say cusp?
No, it's day one of training camp. It's here now. Going to a game on Monday. So
Split spot game, yeah.
let it rain, let it rain.
Now before we get into that, how's the summer?
It was great. Yeah, lots of family time. New baby back in March, right? So
Did you guys get out to the shoe shop?
yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks this time. Was good, but you know, you got a toddler and I mean, at that time she's only 4 months old or 3 months old or whatever. So it's different, right? Life's changing. Life's getting a little more interesting. But yeah, it was a good summer, all in all, and a teenager in the house as well. So
How'd that work for you?
yeah. Well,
Me, I did a lot of kayaking.
nice.
But highlight of the summer was definitely, well, it wasn't really the summer anymore, but sort of while we were on our hiatus here from the Oilers Rig Radio, I did the MS mountain bike in Hinton. 47 kilometers day one and 45 day two, but basically up and down a mountain.
Yeah.
And my Tate is really sore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it's getting better.
There was some bruising. I don't know why they can't design a decent bike seat. No idea.
Yeah.
But it's coming around.
All right.
I don't yelp anymore when I sit on our wood chairs at the kitchen table. So I think it's all positive.
How about compare that for me to the Camrose ride, which is like, isn't it like 80 kilometers both days or something?
Yeah, but so Camrose to Leduc, Leduc to Camrose, day one normally takes me 3 hours to ride it. And that, I think it's 90K. It takes me 9 hours to run it. And doing 47 on my bike day one in Hinton took just over 4. So it kind of gives you an indication. You're not going, I think, if I remember correctly, on average when I'm riding to Camrose, about 35 kilometers an hour, somewhere around there. Plus or minus 5, I'm not sure if it's exact, but somewhere in there. I know I had my Garmin on while I was doing this hit and ride, and at best you're doing 10, 15.
Yeah.
So
more grueling for you. The Hinton mountain ride was more grueling than the Camrose, the Leduc to Camrose?
I'd say no, because that's 3 hours. That whole 3 hours you're on your ass. You're on that bike seat when you're mountain biking. 4 hours you're probably only on your bike seat for 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I definitely like the Hinton one better. The scenery is amazing. The course is amazing. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Good for you, man. Congratulations.
But next up, before we get into our expectations episode, we have the quiz. You were 0 for 5 last year?
Well, come on. Give me an answerable question.
All right,
You throw me a softball to...
late 90s. I think it was 98. The Oilers traded Jason Arnott for Bill Guerin. The Devils sent one more player this way, and the Oilers sent one more player that way. Who were the other players in the deal? Now, if you get the players right and get the teams wrong, doesn't matter. I'll say you get this right. You get a bonus point if you can tell me which guy went from which team. So we're looking for the other 2 players in the deal for Arnott for Guerin, one from the Oilers, one from the Devils. I'll give you a hint. There was another forward coming back from the Devils.
I have no idea. I can't remember.
Valerie, I'm a Pukin. Pukin.
Okay.
He came from
the Devils.
with Guerin.
Yeah.
And we sent Brian Muir with Jason Arnott.
Brian Muir. 0 for 6.
But that was better, right? Like
Yeah, that was better than, like name the 12 guys in sequential order that,
spell Kajula.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that might have been the hardest one.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Speaking of some, well, maybe trivia, history, whatever. 30 years. 30 years ago today, Lemieux scored the series-winning goal for the '87 Canada Cup.
That was Jesus.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Do you
I
remember how
remember.
wide open Larry Murphy was? He could have drove a Volkswagen into the net, and Lemieux was like, "I got it."
I got this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
66, and no one gives a flying hoot that you're 55. Back off, pal.
That's right. Yeah. The whole way up the ice, the face-off was in.
He wore 55, right? Didn't he, Larry Murphy?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty sure
I think
he
so. He played on the line in that Canada Cup with Gretzky and Lemieux. Like. What
Murphy?
more?
I
Yeah.
thought he was a defenseman.
Well, then it wasn't Larry Murphy. Who was it? It was it was a Murphy. I'm gonna look it up. Maybe he came up off the blue line then.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, you looked it up. We got to move into our 2017-2018 expectations. Surprisingly for me, the fact that we came out of the decade of darkness last year and won a playoff round, I would have thought by now a lot of the negativity surrounding the team would have dissipated more than it has.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, here, play the clip.
Yeah.
Play the clip.
We got the clip.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'm pretty sure Larry Murphy's a defenseman.
Howard check.
That's right.
How'd you get Larry Murphy out of Howard check?
Just wait.
Oh, he's wearing number 8.
Look how wide open he is.
So
126 remaining. All 3 games of that series ended 6-5.
at least I had his position right, though.
You did, yeah. Yeah.
I had his number way off.
Yeah, well, anyway, he jumped up in the play with Gretzky and Lemieux. Nobody even looked at Murphy, including the goalie. He's standing wide open in front of the net.
He could have sat there cross-legged and had a picnic.
Totally. He could have taken his gloves off, and dusted that thing off 7 times and still put it in the net. But Lemieux scored anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Take that, Putin.
That's right. Yeah.
So first up, we're gonna start looking at our expectations for the team. Do you want to start in goal or on defense?
Oh, wherever. Why not start in that?
Yeah, it
Work
makes
our
more
way
sense.
out.
The way I wrote it out's wrong.
Yeah.
With our air quotes script. But anyway, so do you think? Let's talk about the backup position first.
Okay.
Not a huge sample size. Love using that term. Thank you to math guys.
Yeah.
For Brossois so far, is he good enough?
I think so. He had a couple of good games when he got in there at the end of last year. Obviously Camp's going to tell. He's got a couple of veteran AHLers, I think, on the other end, right? So, I think there's 7 goalies in camp or something right now. So a couple of them will be gone after Monday, but.
Well, speaking of those guys, kind of around the backup positions before we talk about Talbot.
Yeah.
Apparently that Ellis kid that they got out of college, I guess not last summer, not this summer. I guess it's 2 summers ago now, but apparently he was really good in Bakersfield. And some articles that I read actually seem to imply that he may have been better than Brossois last year in the AHL. Do you think Brossois is a lock? Or could a guy like Ellis come up and push him out?
Well, I mean, I think the backup position will be left up. There'll be I think there's always, you want to have a battle for it at camp. I mean, I think if it's close, Brossoit, on either end of it, Brossoit gets the nod just because he's played some NHL games.
And they've been growing him. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah. But, I mean, if Ellis has a great camp and seriously outperforms Brossoit, why not? Why wouldn't you reward
At the end of the
him?
day, it's a backup goalie.
Yeah, you can...
You wave him and you send him down, and maybe somebody picks him up, maybe somebody doesn't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Talbot, how many games? Well, now speaking of the backup, let's assume it's Brossoit, but I mean, if it wasn't, how many games does that backup need to play? Do you see Talbot playing more or less or the same as he did last season? Now, early, they had the monster doing snow angels in the crease.
Yeah.
So Talbot had to play. So
Yeah.
where do you see that? Does he need to be a 20-25 game guy? What?
Well, how many did Talbot play last year? Like 74 or something?
Yeah, I was gonna say 73. So I'm all in there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's got to be less. Like, I mean, I would hope I think you want to play Talbot lots. Because I think that's just the type of goalie he is. So I think you want him playing probably between 65 and 70 games. But if Brossoit's or Ellis or what's the other guy's name? He's got a Pampernilli or something like that. He was he was the goalie when they won the Calder Cup this year.
Yeah, I'm not.
last year.
I don't know.
Yeah, so the Oilers signed the Calder Cup winning goalie, so he's an AHL champion.
Yeah, but I remember that's great. But I remember years ago they signed a guy by the name of JF Labe and he had a killer couple of seasons for the Hershey Bears years ago.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be the air quotes best goalie outside of the NHL.
Yeah.
Or best goalie in the AHL, whatever. The Oilers signed him. He didn't do so well. And I remember as he was leaving town, he was like, "Yeah, it's rigged. They never really wanted me here anyway." It's like, no, it's just your goals against was like 800. Every time I hear something like that, I think about that. Or there was that guy that Philadelphia had him for a while. Then he went back to Europe. He was the center, and then we signed him, and he was that quote unquote best player outside the NHL for a while. I can't remember. I think he was a Czech. Pretty sure he was Czechoslovakian. Anyway, may come to me, might not. But anyway, we signed him. It was right around the same time we had Nedved for that brief period.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, okay, we got that because we traded for his rights, I believe, from Philly. And then he agreed to come here, and then he played like the first 12 games of the season, had an assist, and never to be heard from again. I'll have to look him up.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, yeah.
I mean, I just think there's some back pressure there. Last year...
Well, that's what you want, right?
Yeah. Last year, I think they gifted it to the Monster just on, which...
One of Mashrelli's misses.
Yeah. Well, but... Yeah, I mean, it's a miss, but... I mean, was it better than the guy that would have been instead of Brossoit? Because I think the Brossoit being in the HL for half the year was calculated.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think they knew he just wasn't quite ready yet.
Yeah, I think they were just hoping that...
I think they were hoping to get a year out of him, and then it would have been Brossoit, but, like,
at the end of the day, it's a backup goalie, so really...
Right. Like, yeah, I mean, lots of people are quick to point out that, a signing didn't work, but there's 31 teams, 31 general managers that every year take a swing and miss. Every year.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Now, like, if Talbot had played... if the Oilers even come close to meeting some of these, odds makers and forecasters that have them getting to the Cup final, likely that means they're in the President's Trophy talk. Talbot puts up similar numbers than last year. He has to be a serious contender for a Vezina at that point, don't you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was even in the discussion this past year, right?
No, I know, but I don't think anyone leading up to it thought he would actually win.
Yeah.
That he's in the conversation. Though I'm talking about he has to be in the conversation of like a guy that could potentially win it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has Talbot surprised you? I mean, I think we thought we were getting a decent goalie out of New York. A little bit, obviously an unknown. He played well there, but you know, like for me, he's exceeded expectations. You?
Yeah, for sure. But for me, it's a similar conversation that we had just like 15 seconds ago or whatever about through the decade of darkness. You know, we brought on goalies and paid dearly for a bunch of goalies. Habby Boulin. Who else was our goalies during that time?
I mean, who was that guy that? Who were the goalies in the game where McTavish pulled the goalie in the shootout and put in the backup?
Yeah, oh yeah, that was yeah.
I mean, those are guys that like
Yeah.
that was their cup of coffee.
Yeah, well,
I know was it Conklin?
Markkanen, Conklin,
Oh.
and then it was the shootout specialist guy.
Yeah, it
I
was
can't even remember
Morrison.
his name.
Yeah.
Maybe Morrison. Anyway, but like, you know, we signed Habby Boulin. We're like, okay, Stanley Cup winning goalie. This is awesome. You know, like he's gonna be good. He's gonna shore up our back end, right? And then in comes Ben Scrivens, and he has his one game where he makes 59 freaking saves, and we, you know,
Didn't you go that?
we went to that game.
Yeah,
and
we were sitting in my boss's seat.
we were sitting down low. We got a really close view of that game. Anyway, and everybody's like, this guy's awesome. Right? Like it just.
You know, sorry, I got to cut you up with the Scrivens game, just so the listeners understand. Like the owner of the company I work for, he's got really, really nice seats, and this is an old Rexall, not the new building, and they were in row 7, from the blue line to the goal. Oilers shoot twice, so Dan and I got really sore necks that game because when you get outshot like 70 or whatever the hell it was, or 59 or whatever it was. You and I were constantly having to lean over and look down to the other end because the puck barely came in front of us.
Yeah, crazy.
Sorry.
No, you know, like so when they traded, you know, a bunch of stuff for Talbot, and it was a fairly decent price, I think, a bunch of draft picks and whatever. So, you know, a lot of people were like, "Holy crap, that's a lot to give away." And I think at the exact same time we were trading for Reinhardt as well.
Yeah.
We gave away a bunch of draft picks there.
Don't bring that one up. It's a sore spot with a lot of people.
Yeah, whatever. Griffin Reinhardt, like, whatever. Seriously. When people get all fired up about Griffin Reinhardt and the picks we gave, I mean, yeah, they're worth something, and I'm talking about them being worth a little bit, but get over it, man. Like, Talbot, listen, I didn't have high expectations of Talbot because I had been conditioned to not have high expectations, right? So I was like, okay, maybe he's going to be decent. He's going to be better than Ben Scrivens. Great. Like, but to think that he would have as good of a year as he did last year, there's no way I would have thought that.
Especially after the way he started here. You know,
Yeah.
He was kind of shaky at first, right?
Yeah.
So no, I think he's gonna have a brilliant year. But anyway, let's move on to the defense. First question's got to be that first pairing, and so there's kind of two questions there for me. First off, who steps up for Sekera? Like who takes? I mean, I guess it's arguable between him and Clefbaum, who really, but you understand what I'm meaning, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to take those minutes? Who do you see?
Well, Sekera's lefty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nurse is right?
Nope.
No, Nurse is left. Benning's right.
Yeah.
Well, based on play last year, I think Benning probably. The French guy, what's his name?
Well, I think you're right, because I think Benning moves and slides up to. He slides up into the second pair. Russell can move over from playing on the right side to playing the left, and that leaves Clefbaum and Larson as your top pair.
Yeah.
And then on your third pairing there, you've got Nurse for sure.
Yeah.
And then I think it's going to be Greiba and the guy you just mentioned, how do you say his name? Avitu?
Avitu, yeah.
Don't know a lot about him. Apparently he's supposed to have some offensive flair. The Corsi guys love him.
Yeah.
But they also liked Mark Fane. So
hey, he might make the team.
did you know he finished last year on the third pairing in Bakersfield?
Yeah. I was at the UFC last weekend, and the Oilers were there. There's a bunch of Oilers there, and he was with them. He was with, McDavid and Lucic, and like he was riding with the boys. I saw it on.
No, he's still getting paid like the boys.
I know. Like I saw it on Twitter or.
Do you think he gives a crap if he's playing 8 minutes a night in Bakersfield?
Yeah.
A, it's in California, and I'm making over $3 million a year.
I saw the picture on Facebook, and there's everybody comments, right? There's so many trolls, and some trolls like, what the hell is Fane doing there?
Yeah. One of these things doesn't look like
that's right. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I think Benning has been really solid. He was really solid last year in the playoffs. I think he moves up, but I think Nurse is ready to take a bit of a step forward here as well, right? So it could be a bit of a battle, and I mean that's a natural move to move Nurse up. So if Nurse kicks ass in camp, I think it's probably him, right? But if he's
You hope it is.
Yeah, I hope it is.
Because that guy's just got all the physical tools in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
He's fast, he's mean, he's strong. Like,
see, my favorite part about him is that he's mean. I love that about, like, it's something that we've been missing here. That's why that 10 years were so, like, I just feel like the competitiveness last year, by adding just a couple of like fierce competitors, like changed the outlook of the team, right?
so first pairing. I mean, I think you assume it's going to be Clefbaum and Larson. I think Larson proved beyond a shadow of doubt that he is a legitimate first pairing number 2. Shut down.
Yeah.
Solid as a rock.
He's the Charlie Huddy, man.
Yeah, love him. Is Clefbaum has Clefbaum proven he's a number 1? Is he the genuine article? Is he proven it? Where do you
Well, I think he's got more to give than he had last year, and I mean he had an amazing playoffs, right? Scored a couple of big, huge goals. Yeah, and I think he's got a little bit more to give too. So
and he's got extra ab muscles.
Yeah,
he's got one.
He's got like a 12-pack.
Yeah. What'd you think of the Russell contract?
Oh,
Go ahead, say it.
I like it.
They need to hear it.
Yeah,
they need to hear it.
I love Russell. Here's what I know. Okay. Chris Russell came to this team. The team got better. I mean, a lot of guys came to this team, right? But he was part of it. We got better. Why not? If you can fit it into the thing, why not? Why not just keep rolling with a good thing? They really didn't add all that much, right? I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into it here right away with Eberle and Strome.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but I mean, they added a V2 to, bolster up what we knew Sekera being hurt, right? To just add a little bit more depth there.
Love the Corsi.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's all it is, man.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see, because right now, I mean...
Corsi loves Pouliot too.
Corsi doesn't love Chris Russell, but I do. Because I watch the games, I don't follow a spreadsheet, right? So, yeah, we'll see. The jury's out on a V2, but hopefully he works out, and he presses those bottom guys for ice time, the Greiba and, that bottom pairing.
Now, I caveat here. You got to be careful when you start talking about the analytics on the internet, because
they get a little freaked out.
Yeah. And they can be a little belligerent at times. I'm not anti-analytics. I just think that
you're anti-analytics guy.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Most of them. Just because they're really, really smug in their arguments, and they never come back after the fact and say, yeah, I kind of butchered that one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I have no doubt that analytics are important if you are the Edmonton Oilers, or if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, or I don't care, any one of the teams in NHL.
Sure.
And I think you can get some very valuable insight from looking at big data like that. I just think that a lot of the commentators and the people that'll go after you on Twitter and stuff, they ain't that guy. And I used the ain't just to see, because I know it's grammatically incorrect. It's not a word. I did it on purpose. Because you see so many years, right over here, based on analytics, will take shots at this particular move and be vicious about it. And then it'll actually turn out the exact opposite of what that particular writer was thinking. That guy never comes back and goes, "Oh, my bad."
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, yeah.
Kind of like Terry Jones did when he said wasn't there something where he said he would eat the article if he was wrong?
Yeah.
And then he did it. That's a good journalist right there.
I think so.
Yeah.
Now we've actually kind of touched on both of them, but where do you see the ceiling for first Nurse? You kind of talked about it, and then Benning. Like, for me, I think they push the top four, and that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, Benning's gonna get power play time.
No, but to get those top 4 minutes,
Sure,
right? I think
sure, but
ultimately you want, and like what I saw with Russell's contract, the way they structured it, this is why I didn't understand all the vitriol about the contract, where people are like, there goes Trelly again, signing for way too much money, blah, 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 overpayment, too much years,
I don't even remember what the deal is.
It's basically 4 years, well, just over $4 million a year. But the way Shirelli structured the contract, so your cap hit's just over $4 million, but they pay out most of the money in the first 2 years. So let's say you're an Arizona type team where you're just trying to stay at the floor.
Yeah.
So you want that cap hit, but you don't make a lot of money. So you want to, so now they're in real dollars to say it's the Arizona Coyotes. They're only paying Russell
$1.5 million,
something
or
like
whatever.
that, right?
Yeah.
So when people say it's not a tradable contract, well, that's not necessarily true, because it depends on the economics at that time. And,
Yeah.
do you have somebody who's just trying to get to the floor?
Yeah. They got a lot of teams that are cap floor teams.
And you look at the contracts that people have been claimed, were untradeable. David Clarkson, great example.
Yeah.
Well, they got moved, right? So
Yeah.
you don't know, I don't know. But anyway, so what do you think the ceiling is for those guys?
Well, I think both of them, Benning's young. They're both young. So, like, I think in the top 4, for sure. Second pairing,
Yeah.
to me, is a decent expectation for them, a goal for them to both push. They're going to get second or top 4 minutes, I think, because both of them will get special teams time. Mm-hmm. Right? So, they're going to get minutes over and above their regular minutes. Like that third pairing, might, like Greiba might not see a lot of special teams power play.
Well, he shouldn't anyway with his skating.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think those two guys, I think if you're the Oilers, you're hoping that they're making the established guys nervous.
Yeah.
Right? You always want that sort of that upward pressure.
Sure.
So we're going to move into the forwards. Let's just talk about it now. Jordan Eberle got traded after a 20-goal, 51-point season. A lot of people are mad about it. Those people like to go on comment boards. And they'll say, well, Strome's not nearly the player, yada, yada, yada. You've heard all the arguments. Mm-hmm. His best year, he had 17 goals and 50 points. So I don't think it's a stretch, especially now that it looks like he's at least in the preseason, he's starting with McDavid. And if that goes well, he's going to get, he may get a full season, he might get 20 games, but he's going to get time with McDavid. Mm-hmm. Now, the year he had 17 goals, he shot just over 9%. So he wasn't riding like an unreal shooting percentage or anything like that. So is it that unreasonable? Like if Strome gets 15 goals and 45 points this year, 5 goals less than ever did last year. And, keep in mind he had a hat trick on the very last game to even get to 20 goals. Mm-hmm. To me, that's and you're paying $4 million around $4 million less for that production. To me, that's a win. That's a huge win, especially when Draisaitl and McDavid come up. Their contracts kick in.
Yeah. listen, no team ever wants to lose a guy like Jordan Eberle, and chances are, if you're trading a guy like Jordan Eberle, you're going to lose the trade. We won't talk about the other trade. That is a similar.
Mm-hmm. Well, you barred it last season.
I barred it, so we're not going to talk about it. But
But I don't think we lost that one. I know we're not going to talk about it. But I don't think we lost.
Well, no, but at first glance, like you can't say we won or lost the trade with Eberle and Strome yet either, because a game hasn't been played.
Yeah.
Right. So, but on paper, when you looked at the other trade, most people went.
We're talking about it.
What are you? Yeah, right. We're talking about it. But anyway, but it's the same thing with this trade. Mm-hmm. On paper, you look at it and go, "What the heck was he thinking?" Well, if you want to be mad at anybody, you should be mad at those two morons that signed Jordan Eberle to a $6 million deal and made it almost impossible for Chiarelli not to trade him this year. He had to. And he's going to have to trade the other mistake that those guys made by when they gave Ryan Nugent-Hopkins $6 million a year. Right? So, and everybody's going to be pissed off about what they get for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as well. And you can't be pissed off at Chiarelli because he's just cleaning up the mess that was left behind. If those guys make $3.5–4 million, what they're probably worth, they're not getting traded. They're going to play here with McDavid and everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I wasn't happy to lose Eberle and his 20 goals that he's had every year for the last 6 years that he's been here, and and get a guy that at best has had you said 17 in his career, and last year didn't have a very good year at all. I think he'll bounce back though. He's a young guy. His family is really close with McDavid.
Well, him and I guess his younger middle brother, because there's two younger than him, but right. the middle one played with McDavid and Erie. So.
Yeah, well, and they're like best buddies. Yeah. Aren't they the ones who were at the draft across the rink from each other, like making fun of their moms because their moms are even friends and stuff? I have no idea. Yeah, anyway, okay, whatever. But I think he'll have a better year. I wasn't mad at the trade, because I knew it had to be done, and I knew when they were talking about trading Jordan Eberle, you weren't going to get something huge for him, nor could you. You have to take. They had to take a $2.5 million, $3 million contract for Jordan Eberle, not another $6 million contract for Jordan Eberle.
Well, and I think, we talked a little bit before we hit record, but I honestly think, regardless of what happens with Nugent-Hopkins offensively this year, you have to imagine he's gone.
Oh yeah.
Before the start of the,
Yeah.
Because it's like let's say he breaks out this year and has a 25 goal, 70 point season, or say 65 point season. That's to the Oilers' benefit because they have to trade him, and they'd be trading high.
Yeah.
And with Eberle, they probably traded low, right? In retrospect, but you don't know it at the time until it happens. Mm-hmm. Yakupov, the best time to trade him would have been after his 17-goal rookie season, right?
Yeah.
But again, you don't know that. And with Hall, jury's out, right? So.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Eberle's going to go to New York, and he's going to have a great career. He's going to be a 20-goal scorer for his entire career. Right? So people are going to look at that and go, "Oh, look what we," but Ryan
and say he really it's not always a given, and I think the most famous example of this is when Gretzky went to St. Louis briefly. And I can remember when he got traded there. Everybody just was like, okay, Hall's going to get 3 goals a game.
Yeah.
Right? Best one-timer with the best passer, it's going to be gold. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes guys just don't mesh with other guys, and you see that all the time. Lucic, not to the same degree, but Lucic was supposed to have a banner year playing with McDavid and ended up being maroon. Mm-hmm. Right? That stuff happens. So let's just say, for argument's sake, Eberle meshes with Tavares.
Well,
It's not without, it's not, I mean, it's possible he snipes 30 next year.
yeah, they put together a couple of nice junior games.
Yeah, and apparently
Right?
good friends. And,
Well,
yeah.
in the World Juniors, when Eberle scored that last few seconds against Russia in that semifinal, I think Tavares was on the ice with him, right? I remember what I was going to say. So, some guys also that I got into a few debates with about the Eberle trade kept talking about how you don't have to trade Eberle this year because McDavid's contract doesn't kick in until the next year. Yeah, you do, because you had to trade one of the $6 million players, right? Whether it be Lucic, because I mean, you remember Lucic has $6 million too, right? So Lucic, RNH, or Eberle had to go, because do you really think you're going to be able to trade two $6 million players at the end of the year, this coming year, when you need the room for McDavid's $10.5 million? They had to do it. And they're going to have to. I mean, it doesn't have to be Ryan Nugent-Hopkins either. They could get rid of Lucic. If they can ditch Lucic's $6 million, then they could keep Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, right? So, I mean, there's still options for Sherrill.
They're losing somebody next summer.
You bet they
And
are.
I would say right now the odds on favor is Nugent-Hopkins.
Sure.
But you're right.
Because I think
it could be another guy.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is probably a little more tradable than Lucic is.
Well, it's because he can play center.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to imagine a team like Montreal has probably already made the call.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the fact that they're even considering moving Durant to center, which he's never played, and this is now, hey, look, here's our first line center. He's only ever played wing in the league, and he's not that old. Never mind, he's French. Right? So anyway, moving on. Now, again, we kind of touched on this before we started hitting recording, but I think it was 2 days ago, I was listening to the Stauffer show at lunch hour, and it was Reed Wilkins subbing in. And yeah, it was 2 days ago. It was Thursday afternoon, because it was the day after the Oilers rookies versus Grant McEwen, Nate All-Star team.
Yeah.
And I only caught the tail end, but what the caller basically said, he was ripping into Puljujärvi, calling him a bust. And then he started ripping into Yamamoto and calling him a bust. And the guy hangs up. And I like Reed Wilkins. He's subtle humor, right? He kind of pauses before he says anything. He just goes, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he just kind of goes, you know what? Let's just call him Larry. You know what, Larry? I don't know. I think it's a little early to be calling these guys bust. Like, and then that's one of the things I shouldn't say. It's kind of a love-hate thing about listening to other fans. But seriously, the guy gets drafted in June. It's September. He plays one game and doesn't score a goal. The very first game, well, I guess he played in the rookie tournament, but the first, he comes back and plays this pickup game against a bunch of local college kids.
Yeah.
Doesn't score a goal, and somebody's like, well, guess we're gonna get a 5th round pick for him now.
Playing against guys 6 years older than he is.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about that? I was a little blown away by it.
Well, I mean, those guys don't deserve. I mean, they deserve. It's laughable at best. I mean, you got to give these kids some time. Puljujärvi's only, he's 19 years old. He had some time. He had a fairly decent, stint in the AHL, I think. I don't think it was, standout by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I think perfect scenario that Puljujärvi starts in the AHL again, in my opinion.
Well, they were saying, I remember I was listening it was probably on the radio or reading, doesn't matter. But, the impression I get is he was young for his draft year. He comes over here, doesn't really speak English, completely new culture. So that means starting the season, he's only been 18, not even for half a year kind of thing, right? Now he's all of a sudden in Edmonton, new language, everything. And new rink, the game's played differently here. And, you can kind of tell where a lot of that stuff's coming from, though. Yeah, but look at Laine. Yeah, but he's not Laine. And he's not Austin Matthews. You gotta have to let that I mean, he played a couple games in the NHL. The guy drafted before him, I don't believe, played any actual regular season games.
The Columbus guy, no.
Dubois or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know, to call those guys a bust this early.
Well, to even mention Bust and Yamamoto in the same sentence, like,
give your head a shake.
yeah, I mean, let's let him at least play a preseason game before we start making any, rash decisions, right?
The bust you go.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, small guys do have a place in this league, but they got to be special.
Yeah,
And
everything you've read about this, I haven't really watched them, but everything I've read about him is that he's just got crazy hands, crazy skill. But I mean, he's tiny, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's lots of highly skilled. Well, not lots, but there's a few highly skilled small guys that do well in this league. Johnny Gaudreau.
Drake Caggiula is not a big guy.
Yeah. So we'll see, but he'll go back to junior.
My next point is, but you already kind of mentioned that, but so do you see Puljujarvi making the team, or do you just want him going straight to the A?
Well, I think in a perfect world, he plays another half a year maybe in the AHL, comes up once or twice to, cover off an injury or something like that.
Yeah, make him your first call up.
Yeah,
right?
But I just think he needs to go and dominate a little bit in that league before he comes. There's no rush on him. What for? Right? I mean, he's left or right wing. Right? Yeah. So sounds like Strome maybe right wing. Mm-hmm. Help me out here. Cassian will be a right wing.
I'm pretty sure Jokinen's left-handed, but I think he can play all three forward positions.
Yeah.
Who else? It doesn't matter.
Well, what's his name? The Russian there. What's his name?
Oh, Slepyshev.
Slepyshev's a right wing, right? But I think he's starting camp with a hurt ankle or something. So, I mean, right wing's probably the biggest question on the whole team. What about Kelly? He's a guy that could probably play a little bit right wing if we have center, right?
Well, I think he's a utility guy, but I mean, do I want Kelly on the team? Kelly makes your team. I'm a little, like, I don't know. Does that mean you're?
No, I think that means you're like he's a utility guy, right? Like he's just like a fill-in. Maybe he plays 40, 50 games. Like what's the
I guess so.
What's the hurt in having a guy a little bit of depth like that for your fourth line?
I'm an Oilers fan. I want all stars.
Yeah,
right,
top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
But the right wing's the question. So that's his saving grace to make the team. But I think in a perfect world, he doesn't. And he has another good, solid, and he goes down to the AHL and he figures himself out there, and he leads the team in scoring, and then
We talked on it already a little bit, but RNH, what is his role? What do you see his role being? I mean, it's kind of bounced around. You listen to the sports talk radio, you read the blogs, you read the paper, and I've heard anywhere him third line center, first line right winger, second line center. Where do you?
Well,
me, I just want to see him bring some creativity back to his game.
Yeah. I hope Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I mean, he's starting to play to really pick up on the defensive side of the puck. So, I'd like to see him spend a lot of time penalty killing and probably second line power play. There's lots of talk about him playing wing. Maybe he'll play a little bit of that, but like Todd McClellan coach teams are, out of the 12 forwards, 9 of them are centers, right? And so this is just in his kind of wheelhouse to have.
But it makes so much sense though. Like you have a guy struggling on a dot one night. Yeah. You give the other guy the tap, right? Like,
Or you cheat to win face-offs like Anaheim does, and if you get tossed out, you still got a fighting chance to win the draw. It's not just a giveaway, right? So, yeah, I mean, overall weakness for the team last year, and it was glaring in that series against Anaheim, was the face-off situation, right? So, but and I mean, RNH isn't going to help you there much unless he's worked on it a whole ton.
Sticking with the forward ranks, dark horses. Now, I didn't list them here, but I think Slepyshev on, even though he had a really strong playoff, I think he's on this list too. But guys like Slepyshev, Jujhar Khaira, Pakarinen, but then guys like Ty Ratty, who I remember he was pretty well thought of coming out of junior. I think he was drafted in the second round, and that Gambardella that they signed out of the NCAA.
Yeah.
Where do you see those guys falling in the mix? Me personally, like if it was between Khaira and Chris Kelly, I'm taking Khaira. My age, I'm pretty sure Jujhar can give you the same, can do as much for you as Kelly can.
Yeah.
So why are you gonna stick a 35-year-old guy in his way? You might as well develop the kid. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's a fair.
But out of those guys that I mentioned, is there other guys that you think could maybe push their way onto the roster or solidify a spot?
Well, I think Jujhar Khaira should, has something to prove to himself, to the organization, right? He's going to be looking to make a press here. I think I saw a quote where he said that, he'll be disappointed if he doesn't make the team, which is great. Like he's moved into that realm for himself of
long shot. Now he's on the cusp.
Right. Like now, he feels that he should be on this team if he's solid. So I definitely think he's going to push the team. We talked about the defense earlier, but I mean, again, we're talking about dark horse forwards only.
Yeah, forwards.
Yeah. Okay.
I think defense. I didn't do a dark horse on defense. I did. We didn't talk about it, but I think really you're looking at Simpson, Grava, and the guy from France is sort of that bottom. So it wasn't that interesting, but I found it more interesting with the forward. So do you see? I dealt with Ty Ratty pushes, but he's he is a right-handed shot, so you never know.
Yeah.
But his minor league numbers are pretty underwhelming. The Gambardella, I don't really know enough about him. I looked at his college stats, and he's well over a point a game guy, but left-handed shot, so there's no advantage to bringing him in. Parker Rainen, I think we've seen what we've seen from him. I think he's just one of those bubble guys that eventually.
No, he's a depth.
He's
a depth guy. He may even make the team and just not dress, right?
Well, like that one guy that they had a few years ago. Name escapes me. And I think he was a Finn too. Or is he a Swede? But he was that guy that was just on the, most time in the press box that time he got in.
Mm-hmm.
That was only a couple years. Anyway. So now we get to the fun part. Points predictions. I didn't do my usual spreadsheet this year.
No?
I am just doing this off the cuff. So why don't we start with? Let's start with Ryan Strome. Where do you see him?
Well, I think he's going to have a better year this year. I think he'll be right around the 20 goal mark.
So you say 20 goals?
Yeah, I'll say 20 goals for him and maybe 60 points playing with McDavid.
I got him. I already said it, but I'll say it again. 15 goals, 45 points. And if he gets 15 goals and 45 points, I wouldn't say the Oilers will win the deal, but no one should have an issue with it because you have to look at the cap savings too.
Sure.
Leave those ones for next. So let's go to the two big boys. So Patrick, Maroon.
Yeah.
I don't think he equals last season. I think he hits 20 goals. And with him, I'm just going to say 20 goals because with him, I don't really care how many assists he gets. It's not his game.
Yeah.
Right? But if he can get me 20 goals and do what he did last year at the Intimidation, but apparently he came in a lot leaner this year. So I don't know, I'll say 25 goals and...
How many did he have last?
28.
28.
So I'll say 25 goals, get out of here, 40 points. There we go. What do you got?
Yeah, I think it's probably in the same. You know, if he can still keep up as close as he did last year, I think his season will be fairly similar.
Well,
to what it
apparently
was
he's
last
fitter.
year. Yeah.
Right?
Well, there we go. So yeah, I'm gonna say 27 goals and 38 points.
What are you playing? The Price is Right? $1. Have to get the Plinko game out.
Yeah.
Who's next? So Lucic, 20 goals last year. See, now I want to mention something about Lucic, right? A lot of Oilers fan pissed off that we trade Eberle after a 20-goal season. Lucic gets 20 goals, and they're like, we overpaid him.
Yeah.
You know, I get, yes, he's older, but he's not.
$6 million. They make the exact same money. Yeah.
He's not that much older. He's like 2.5 years older than Eberle. Like, and he brings that physical element that, I mean, that's where a lot of people who didn't like Eberle, that was the big knock against him. Like, there's no physicality there. So, anyway, I just wanted to point that out. But Lucic, I got him. Apparently, he's the same weight as last year, but his body fat's better. We were just watching the interview. Yeah. Training with Terrell Owens. Apparently, he's a little quicker. 23 goals, 50 points. That's where I got him at.
24 goals, 51 points. No. Yeah, I think he's going to come in right around 20. So 20 goals, I think he'll get again this year. That's pretty much his MO for his whole career. And 55, 60 points. Well, maybe not 60. 50 to 55 points.
Now, I think this is going to be the toughest one to predict, and that's Nugent Hopkins. You know, the thing that always you can tell around town, casual fans, not hardcore, but casual fans always assume that Nugent Hopkins has scored far more than he actually has. Like, I think he's only had one season over 20 goals. Usually he's like 15 to 18 kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think his high is just over 50 points. You know, so... And that was when that goes back to when he was the first line center, being flanked by Hall and Eberle. Like, so even if he does play more offensive this year, I don't see him getting much past 20 goals. But if he's going to start in the top, see, this is tough. I don't know. Part of me wants to say 15 goals, about 50 points. But I can see him going over 20, getting like 60. So I'm going to go, I'll go 24 goals, 63 points.
Wow. Nice. You're hoping RNH has a good one so we can get a little more for him.
Yeah. Kinda,
yeah, I'm going to say he's under 20 still. Probably 17 goals, 49 points.
I think you're right. Right when you said it, I'm like, yeah, I went too high on that one. Yeah. Okay, so Draisaitl. Like, he had 77 last year.
Yeah.
50-something the year before, and let's not talk about the year before that. So I'm going to go 82, because I think he's a point-a-game guy. And 26 of those are goals. So whatever, and then just do the math for the assists.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think you're probably right around bang on there. I'm going to say, right around 80 points. I think he's going to get a few more goals, though. I think he'll be a 30-goal scorer.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Now, this is the fun one. We left it for last. It's the fun one.
Yeah.
The next one. Connor McDavid. Well, I think he scores more than last year.
Like goals, you mean?
No, overall.
Points,
yeah. So I think he goes over 100 points. It's just how far. So I think he's in the range of a 35-40 goal guy. I think he could be a 50-goal guy if he was more selfish.
Yeah.
But that's also he's more dangerous the way he is by not being that guy. So I'll say 35 goals and.
Man, we got this team scoring a lot of goals, eh?
Yeah.
I like it.
We'll play this in June and laugh.
Yeah.
I'll go 35 goals and 109 points.
Yeah, I was gonna say 109 actually.
Well, we can be the same. We can be same.
Well, no, I'll go. We can't be the same. That's no fun. So I'll go 107.
Okay.
And we'll just shave off those 2 in goals, so 33 goals.
I was hoping you were going to go 40. You know, step up to the plate point and just let her rip.
No, I think you're right, though. I think, Ovechkin goes out and just fires puck after puck after puck at the net. And yeah, he scores 50 goals every year. Well, not last year, but 50 goals almost every year. And that's great, but how many assists does the guy get, right? I mean, how many Art Ross trophies has he won? Not many, right? But he wins the Maurice Richard trophy every year for most goals, right? But I think that's what sets McDavid apart, is that if you leave him alone, he's going to score. But, if you worry about him, he can dish it too. Like, he can just make the passes that nobody else can. So I think you're right there, and that's what makes him, the most dangerous player in the NHL, because he's a dual threat. He can score if he wants. Kind of like that Canada Cup goal we talked about earlier. Like, Lemieux could have passed it to Murphy, and Murphy would have scored, but Lemieux's like, whatever, I can score, right?
99 upside down, bitches.
That's right.
You don't do something cocky like that, pass it off to Murphy. I'm sorry.
That's right, yeah.
Like, when you've got the Stones, they go, okay, what's 99 upside down, 66? I'm that guy. But then to back it up, I mean, you don't get to be that guy.
Hey, I know this isn't on the agenda,
Okay, sure.
but there's that kid Josh Hosang that decided he wanted to wear 66. And everybody giving him a hard time about it because it's Mario Lemieux's number and nobody should ever.
I thought...
What do you think of that?
I don't care. I mean, there was that guy for the Leafs that wore 99. I'm not putting him up in the same tier as a Gretzky and Lemieux, but at one point, like, guys of my age know, at one point Eric Lindros was only like a half step below, right? And it was always thought that he was going to ascend to that level, but then injuries and concussions.
Yeah, for like 3-4 years, he's the best player in the world.
Absolutely, and at one from before the concussions.
While Lemieux and Gretzky were playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before the concussions, he was a 1.4-ish points per game player. He was the third highest points per game player behind Lemieux and Gretzky at that time.
Yeah.
Patrick Kane comes in as a rookie with Chicago and wears 88. Nobody kicks up a fuss.
Yeah.
By that same logic, no one should wear number 9 because it should have went up to everyone's rafters when Gordie Howe retired. Nobody should wear number 4. Like, where does it stop?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I know because of the eye-popping stats that Gretzky and Lemieux put up, I understand the sort of like, there can only be one kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time...
Nice Highlander reference.
I only like the first one.
Yeah.
Right? And the TV series,
yeah, totally.
I couldn't do it, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for me, it's a number. It's it wouldn't even bother me if, so let's say the NHL hadn't retired Gretzky's number league-wide.
Mm-hmm.
If some kid wore that number, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I feel the same way. I think it's ridiculous that people have made such a huge deal out of it. It's really just for people to. It's clickbait, right? Like Like, and that poor kid's just trying to make it in the NHL. His favorite player was Lemieux. Yeah.
Let's face it, Connor wears 97 because it's pretty close to 87, and he looked, with the whole Crosby thing. So, I don't know, man. Like, so there's no one should wear 91. No one should wear this. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
I hear you.
Where were we there? Points predictions were done. Okay, so how do you rate Chiarelli?
Locked up their 2 best players for 9 years. Well, Draisaitl for 8. Mm-hmm. McDavid will be 9. He got rid of $6 million. Great player he got rid of. Didn't quite get as as much value in return. But when you chalk that up with a Hart Trophy and a Ted Lindsay, a Art Ross Trophy winner, you know, and Draisaitl coming up here, like these are good problems to have, people. You know, go buy your tickets, go watch them play, enjoy it. You know, hey man, I went to like 4 playoff games last year. Was it 4 or 5? 4 or 5 playoff games last year. And I said to my boss today, we were kind of divvying up the tickets for work and figuring out who we're going to take and what games we wanted and whatever. And I'm going, I don't even care about the regular season. Like, now that the playoffs, like, you know, we've titled this episode Expectations. The expectation is bare minimum that they get back to the playoffs, obviously. You know, would love to see them get another round or two, but seriously, like, even, you know, getting to the playoffs in the Western Conference is a feat in itself, right? So I'm the people who complain, they must pay a way more than me and expect way more for their dollar than me and you. You know what I mean? Like, it just, to me, it seems to be a little bit ludicrous the way the team, what he was able to do with the team in the short time he's been here. And yeah, McDavid landed in this team's lap, but
he had to fix the defense. He had to get a
right.
goaltender. He needed secondary scoring. He needed size, and he added all those things.
He's nailed every point of where we complained about this team for 10 years, and he has fixed every single one. Now our biggest problem is we're not deep enough on right wing. Right wing. The easiest position I guess left wing is the easiest position to fill. But the second easiest position to fill on an NHL roster is our biggest problem. And there's options out there still. Like, there's still options out there that guys that are veteran guys that are waiting to be signed. Jerome McGinley, Jaromir Jagr.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like, you could still fill in right wing if you needed to for fairly cheap.
You've touched on something I think it's really important and I think this is where the Oilers got it wrong, and I think some fans got it wrong. And I remember looking at the Atlanta Thrashers before they, were moved. And they had a similar run at the draft table to the Oilers. But who did they get? Well, they got Kovacic, they got Heatley, they got Coburn, so you're looking at a Hall, and they got Patrick Steffen.
Yeah. And
best. Right? But if you look at it, Patrick Steffen lines up with Nail Yakupov.
Yeah.
Then you got so Nugent Hopkins and Hall would be your Heatley and your... And even if you could make a very, 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 very strong argument that Atlanta actually got stronger players because, look, Kovacic was a 50-goal guy, and I believe Heatley was too. So you could argue that they got stronger. But what the point I'm trying to make is what they accomplished by drafting so high, too many wingers, and the one centerman that they did draft, Steffen, was a complete bust, very similar to Yak.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Nugent Hopkins is a bust, but as a first overall pick centerman, I mean, he would be one of the weaker ones. That is a legit.
Who are the other players in that draft? Larson was in that draft.
Yeah, Couturier, Clefbaum. Actually, you have several from the first round on our team. I don't...
So it wasn't even really that strong of a draft.
No.
But anyway, yeah.
But the point I'm saying, and the difference with the Oilers now, so before, during, rebuilds 1 through 5, or run through 3, or however you decide to, we had Gagne, right? Well, he was, again...
Winger.
Yeah,
center. But...
He's centerman here, but he's finding success now by being a winger, right?
Yeah.
You had guys like Robert Nielsen and Cogliano, and right, because I remember before the Nugent that pack, these guys were the up and comers. The future is bright that the team was promoting.
Yeah.
Robert Nielsen.
Yeah.
Tom Gilbert. Those guys.
The kid line too, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then, fast forward a couple years, that still doesn't work out. Then they were promoting Priarby and Hall and Eberle. But again, you look at the composition of the team, weak down the middle, weak in net, weak on defense. Now we're strong in net. The strongest we've been on defense for a long time. Super strong up the middle. Now we're getting weaker down the wings. Well, but the composition looks more like a championship caliber team than having all this.
Yeah.
Right? And if you spend all that money on your wings, you're never going to have enough money to add the guys that you need through the center of the ice.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
overall, I think Chiarelli deserves at least a B, if not an A minus. Like, seriously.
He's made mistakes, for sure.
You bet, but like we talked about it earlier, every general manager in the league takes a swing and misses every year. Every single one of them. Not one can go back and look at every move they made through the course of the year and say, that worked out for us. There's risk in every move you make. And it's positioning too. It's salary cap positioning. I mean, sure, we could go back to when Detroit was just signing anybody and everybody that was good, and they paid they paid they had an $80 million salary list, and the league didn't care. There was no cap. I mean, sure, then you can hit home runs because you just have the money. But in this, you have to take some risk in a salary cap world. The best general managers, take big swings and from time to time strike out.
Yeah, I think I'm exactly the same as you. I mean, has he made some mistakes? Sure, but overall, getting a guy getting the starting goaltender at the caliber of Talbot he did for what he paid. I mean, I think it'd be hard to argue against that one,
especially if he has another year like he did last year.
Having Anaheim have to pay for Maroon,
yeah,
as he scores you almost 30 goals.
Yeah,
I mean, getting Cassian for Scrivens, there's a lot to like there. Todd McClellan, how do you feel about him?
I think he's an excellent coach. I love the way they're structuring this team, and that has a lot to do with Chiarelli. Again, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but McClellan, when he was coaching in San Jose, out of his 12 forwards, he had nine natural centermen playing every night. I love that. I love the way he kind of, he's building his team. It feels like there's some accountability, and I think that probably a lot of that comes from within the room, not from the coach's office. I just feel like McDavid, although he's kind of meek and mild mannered and quiet, you can tell he's a really competitive guy, and he's not going to accept anything but everybody's best night. Right, and you got guys like Lucic, and that's a product of the coach. The coach has to keep those guys engaged, and I think that's what he's best at is keeping the top guys engaged all the way through the crappy times, through the good parts of the season. Last year could have gone. There was a couple of swings where it could have gone really bad. I think there was a couple of 5-game losing streaks or whatever last year where, things could have gone really bad. And, he was able to pull him back in, and I think he's got a lot of help from within the room now as well, which he didn't have before.
I don't watch coaches closely, so I'm not, my opinion means less than squat.
Yeah.
But what I would say is when he's interviewed, the way he speaks, the way he carries himself with like sort of a quiet confidence.
Yeah.
But there's this undercurrent of intimidation.
Yeah.
And I can imagine how I'd react to that. As somebody working under him.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got no no worries about coaching. I don't think that's a weak spot at all.
Well, I mean, again, I talked about it with some players, but since they've gotten here, Shirelli and McClellan, we've gotten better. Right? So how you can't look at that and go, okay, they're, you know, that's good. That's really good. And by getting better, we're like, we went from a lottery pick team to one game away from the Western Conference final. That's a big swing in a year, right? And, you know, that was only his second year as a coach and a general manager. Those guys get an A in my book.
No, I didn't write it down here, but I should ask you, where do you see the Oilers finish? Like, okay, two-part. Where do you see them finishing the standings? And do you see them as a legitimate cup threat?
I mean, I think they'll compete for the division title. I mean, there's still some good teams there. San Jose got a little worse, I think. Anaheim stayed pretty much the same. Calgary got better.
LA's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You don't know what
you never know what you'll get out of LA. But I mean, they'll compete heavily. I think almost right to the very last day for the division title, which probably isn't good enough to take the number one spot in the conference, right? I mean, you got on the other side, you got Chicago, Nashville's coming up, Columbus is coming up, but so yeah, and definitely, I think they're probably in that top 4 teams as cup contenders. Well, maybe top 8, right? Like I think they've got just as good a chance as anybody to get to the cup final. It would be depending on who they're facing. I think if they have a legitimate shot at winning it for sure. You know, I mean, it's that 8. You know, Gretzky tells the story all the time about the first time they made it to the cup final against the Islanders, and they had to learn how to push themselves over that hump. Right? I find it. Like, it's not very often where a team that makes it to the final, for the first time in a stretch of years wins it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, Pittsburgh was always right at the dance, so, you give them but I mean, it's always seems like there's kind of a grouping of teams that are always there, like LA, Anaheim, Pittsburgh, these cores of these teams know how to get there. So there's got to learn how to do that. I would be happy, to be honest with you, again, if they win another playoff series. Like I would walk away from the year and kind of be like, I mean, to win 2 playoff series is a big feat, right?
I see them as a top 5 team for sure in the West.
Yeah.
Whether they finish 1 through 5, I don't. It's all interchangeable because usually at the end of the year, 1 through 5, it's pretty close anyway. So.
Yeah.
And I see them being in the cup conversation all year. But as far as the playoffs go, I mean, every year it's such a crapshoot.
It's a coin flip.
Like Nashville making it all the way to the finals last year. No one saw that coming. I don't remember reading or hearing anyone predicting Nashville getting out of the first round.
Well, every prediction was they're playing Chicago, they're done in 5, right? Like that was every prediction, not that they were going to sweep Chicago.
So I'm not. I would say the Oilers will. I'm with you. If we can win a round or 2 and go on a good run, I mean it's so much fun that maybe I'm getting to be too much of a homer in my old age, but I mean that last year was a good time.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Last thing, and I don't know if you care about this, and I'm not sure that I do, but there's this whole hullabaloo about the Flames and their new arena. Their ownership's like, I'm taking my ball, I'm going home because you won't pay for my lemonade stand.
Yeah.
Like 100%, I'm taking all the money out of it. Like, and I have to say, Rogers Place is phenomenal, but I have to separate being a fan with being a taxpayer, and it still annoys me to this day that this billionaire comes in, you hand them an arena and say, take all the revenue out of it. I mean, everyone would be a successful business owner if somebody else bought their building.
Yeah, paid their rent.
And,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I can understand why the city council is doing what they're doing. This, and the last bit I read is they're trying to get the Flames back to the table, saying, okay, we'll kick in a third. You guys have to kick in another third, and then the other third's going to come from some sort of tax. What are your thoughts on that, or do you even care? Because it's Calgary, and it's like, suck it.
Well, yeah. Well, I had to have a good chuckle, right? Because, well, they're Flames fans, like the diehards are probably freaking out a little bit. So that makes me laugh, because when Cates and Lowe and all those guys went to Seattle to look around, right? They were laughing at Oiler fans because it's basically this. The Ken King or whatever his name is for Calgary Flames is doing the exact same thing Cates did to the Edmonton.
Using your emotions.
You bet. You bet. He's doing the exact same thing. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? It worked. It worked for Daryl Cates, right? So they're gonna get their rink. They're gonna get their rink. It's gonna be gorgeous, and they're gonna be so proud of it. And the Flames are staying in Calgary, so Flames fans, I don't know why you'd be listening to this, but if you are listening to this, don't worry. It works out for you. I've seen this movie. I've read this book.
Yeah, it did eerily remind me of the whole Seattle trip, right?
Totally. It was the exact same thing. Anybody who freaks out.
We're about to go into an election cycle, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we're pulling out.
Yeah.
You know what that means?
Yeah.
We'll try and make it work as long as we can. But you know what I'm really trying to say? We're going to move this,
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah. Speaking of new rinks, have you seen the video about the Detroit's new rink?
No.
Well, when you get a minute, go to their website, and they've got like a video, kind of like how the Oilers did it with the launching of the new building and whatever else, right?
Yeah.
This building is absolutely phenomenal. Like, listen, our Rogers Place is great. I don't think any building of that size goes without any sort of quirk or complaint. Everybody's complaining about the washroom lines at Rogers or whatever.
Yeah, way to put 4 toilets in the building.
Yeah. But the one in Detroit there, I think it's called Little Caesars Arena or whatever. It is awesome, and it is like encompassed, like it actually has the original sign for Detroit's original 6 arena, the Olympiad or something it was called, and they actually have the original sign in the building, and there's like open, like there's one whole side of the building that's open light, so it's really bright, and like you got to watch this video. This building looks amazing. I was a little bit jealous actually watching it. So.
But aren't people like leaving Detroit in large numbers?
Well, yeah. I mean, the only people who have money there are the Ilyich family, right? So they built a building, and they're like, hey, look what we got. Bye, everyone. I mean, somebody had to leave to get the land there for them to build the building, right?
Yeah, well.
Yeah. No, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It looks like they're gonna, and I think the Pistons are gonna play there too. The basketball.
I just remember reading not that long ago that the population of Detroit had dipped below 1 million people.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And there's whole city blocks that are completely abandoned.
Huh.
You should look that up. I'll look up your Little Caesars video. You look up the plight of these people that are living there.
I will.
So we're back. I was, I have to say, I was pretty surprised to get the text from Dave from the Oilers rig saying, hey, do a podcast soon, and I was like, oh.
You mean you enjoyed that swill?
I can't believe you're asking us back.
Yeah.
So this is number 1. No, some changes. This will be the first podcast Oilers Rig Radio released on the Sports Daily, which is now taken over the Oilers Rig domain. So if you go to the Oilers Rig, it redirects to the Sports Daily, and it's just a way bigger website. So if you're listening, if you're one of the subscribers on SoundCloud, give the Sports Daily a look. It's pretty cool. They've got content for all the different pro leagues, all the different cities. It's pretty crazy. And if you're a Sports Daily reader and you happen to come across this and you listen to this, we apologize.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah. Because we're just literally two guys sitting in a garage with a little stand up on a workbench, holding a mic plugged into an iPhone. So it kind of gives you the ambiance of what our setup is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, good to be back, and I hope you're glad to be back.
I am. Yeah, I was actually excited when you mentioned that you wanted to kick this off again. I was.
Yeah, my jaw actually hit my desk at work when I saw the text from Dave. I'm like, oh. I thought the whole milk money. I thought if we don't get canceled after this one.
Milk money. I love that video. I think I've watched it 12 times since.
Well, I think, and I'm just give you a heads up for the next podcast. I think Dan and I are going to watch a little Mitsu Bye Bye Mo Cowboy, and we'll do a little report on that. But anyways, Danny, thanks for doing this again, and everybody out there, we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for having me.